Okay, this is the pre-662 lesson for Algebra 2. We're going to talk about inequalities, just like basic inequalities, before we get to some more intense versions where there's like two equations and we need to find the shaded region or the double shaded region. So before we do that, let's just kind of remind ourselves what inequalities are. They are similar to equations, but they're not equal. One is bigger than the other, potentially. One is potentially bigger than the other. So inequalities are like equations, but not necessarily equal. Boundary point is sort of the line or fence between solutions and non-solutions. So kind of like a basketball court. If we've got our basketball court here, this is the boundary because in here is good, you're in bounds. On the other side, you're out of bounds. Same with here, here, and here. Okay, so a boundary point is the same thing, except it's a dot instead of a line. So just to make sure we have the appropriate names, this symbol right here is actually called less than. I know this seems silly, but it's called less than because it's like a smushed L in less. So it's like a smushed L. This one is like greater. This one is greater than because it's like part of the letter G, part of the capital letter G. That's the only way I can keep them straight. And then this means not equal. So these, the two things that they're speaking about will never be the same. So like up here, they're never going to be equal. On this side, they could be equal because this is the part of the letter G. So this is greater than or equal to. This one is like a smushed L, so this is less than or equal to. I can tell you a funny story if you ask me in class, but this or is really important. It's not and. I'll tell you a story if you ask me, but just make sure you know that's or. All right. So if we look at this first one, it says m is greater than 9, greater than or equal to 9. So there's two questions you have to ask yourself when you're working with these. First, what's the boundary point? And second, open or closed. So this is flashback to quite a while ago, but if you have this symbol with the equal option, that's going to be a solid dot, closed like this. The other option is open, and that's going to be when equals is not an option. So we'll look at some of these here. So this says m is greater than or equal to 9. I'm just going to put 9 right here. It has equals as an option, so that means we need to do solid. And then numbers that are bigger than 9 would be like 11, 13. So we're going to go that way. Similarly, this one has a boundary point of 9. Same type of symbol with the equals option right here. And this one says 9 is less than m, or less than the other numbers. Well, 9 is less than 11 or 13 or 15. So it's a different way of saying something. It's like saying 6:30 or 6:30. It means the same thing, just looks different or sounds different. So this one, the boundary point is 2. It has this equal, so we're going to use solid. And it's eating the 2, which means it's bigger, or it's saying the other numbers are less than 2. So that'd be like 0, -2, this direction. Same boundary point here, solid because we have the equals, and this one says that 2 is greater than the other numbers. Well, 2 is greater than 0 and -2 and -1,000. So you'll notice that these two are exactly the same, even though they look different, and that's because the symbol flipped when the numbers and the number and the variables flipped. Same with these two. Okay, so First, the boundary point on this one, it says n is greater than 4. So here's 4, we'll say. This one does not have an equal sign, so we're going to put a circle. And it says n is bigger, so 10 is definitely bigger. 10 would be on this side. Here, j is less than -6, so let's go -6 right here. There is no equal sign, so we're going to do a circle because it can't equal that. And then these are less than -6. Well, what's worse than -$6? Like -100, which would be down this way. Here we have the boundary point of 4 again. No equals, so we have an open circle. And this says that 4 is greater than n. 4 is greater than n. The way I prefer to think of that is that n's smaller. So what's bigger? What's 4 bigger than? 4 is bigger than 0. So it's that way. Here, our boundary point is -6 again. No equals, so we got an open circle. And it says j is less than that. Well, -10 is less. So we go that way again. Some students notice a trick. If you do, great. If you don't, that's fine. But they see that if the letter comes first, the arrow matches. That's if the letter comes first. If it comes second, the arrow does not match. Okay? If the letter comes second, the variable comes second, the arrow does not match. Okay, so let's work backwards. This one, we have a boundary point of 9. These numbers are less, so these numbers are less than 9. There's an open circle, so this is it. Here, our boundary point is 2. The numbers they've shaded are 0, -1, and so on. Those numbers are less than 2, but because this has a solid dot, we need the equals option. Here, our boundary point is 6. These numbers are bigger than 6, so it would eat the other numbers. Since it's open, we do not have the equals option. Here, our boundary point is -1. These numbers are bigger than -1. It's a solid dot, so we need to put equals. Okay, we're going to graph some linear inequalities, but I'm going to pause the video before I get cut off, and I'll start a fresh one, okay?